Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations points us towards something beyond the inherent worth and dignity of the first principle. It points us to the larger community. It gets at collective responsibility. It reminds us that treating people as human beings is not simply something we do one-on-one, but something that has systemic implications and can inform our entire cultural way of being. And that was written by Reverend Emily Gage of the Unity Temple in Chicago. The opening words this morning are number 559 by Emma Goldman. Someday, men and women will rise. They will reach the mountain peak. They will meet big and strong and free, ready to receive, to partake, and to bask in the golden rays of love. What fancy, what imagination, what poetic genius can foresee the potentialities of such a force in the life of men and women? The transitional words are 584, a network of mutuality. And this consists of quotations from Dr. Martin Luther King's speeches, articles, and books. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
There are some things in our social system to which all of us ought to be maladjusted.
Hatred and bitterness can never cure the disease of fear. Only love can do that.
We must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation.
The foundation of such a method is love.
Before it is too late, we must narrow the gaping chasm between our proclamations of peace and our lowly deeds, which precipitate and perpetuate war.
One day, we must come to see that peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we arrive at that goal.
We must pursue peaceful ends through peaceful means.
We shall hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope.
I am delighted to turn the program over to our speaker, Sylvester Edwards. He has been here before, and I look forward to hearing his words again. He was born in Mississippi and relocated to Indianapolis at an early age. At one time, he told me that his role in life was to be a coach. He is currently the president of the local NAACP. Sylvester, welcome.
Good morning, all. I'm Sylvester Edwards, president of the Greater Terre Haute NAACP. We were founded 113 years ago on February the 12th, which is Lincoln's birthday. It was founded by a group of white and Jewish people and the Niagara movement, which was a number of black intellect who had to go all the way to Niagara, Canada, to have the right to assemble or to congregate. A white woman, Mary White Overton, led the founding of the NAACP. 1908, there was a race riot in Springfield, Illinois, which is the capital of Illinois. 1 year later, the NAACP was founded, and we are celebrating our 113th year of freedom fighting. The problem is, the organization should not even be a part of this life, because if people do what God and Jesus want, we would not need a civil rights organization. Most of this has started in the black church. In the South, during slavery, many people needed a day off, and they joined the church. With that, they want to make sure that blacks was not planning the insurrections. So they always had a white was there to supervise and say for the chosen pastor to lead his people in Sunday services. Normally it would be an overseer sitting outside the church, or the slave master sitting on his front porch drinking mint julep, while he had already been to church. And to a great extent, this is sort of like an oxymoron. Someone pretend to be Christian and a person of God would enslave another body. But due to the fact that what made him wealthy, he did whatever he needed. First of all, to dehumanize a person, a group. Last time I was here, I told you about a particular word, the N word, and where it comes from. It was a word that stands for a person who wallers in their own filth. And being in the belly of the ship for 6 weeks coming across the Atlantic Ocean, where people was not unchained to use the bathroom when they got at least 300 people there, where people would urinate, defecate, women menstruate, the stench of death because they still would not unchain the person. People threw up, people bled. And when we came to the shore of the United States, people misunderstood that that was what people were supposed to look like, or being from Africa. Automatically, they would dehumanize and said that word, the N word, was a word that said that people waller in their own filth. And I made a statement that God made man. White man made the N word. During slavery, only 1 of 10 white men owned a slave, or multiple. And the people fought in the Civil War. The other 9 men want to own slaves, and they would not allow that system to perish. That's why they fought so hard to keep slavery in the South, and also to spread it into the West. But I'm here today to talk about the black church. Most black people coming from the South and slavery or Baptist. And of course, there's Baptist ministers. And I won't be one today where you were asked, I need 2 minutes. And that 2 minutes, 20 minutes later, I need 1 more minute, which leads until another half an hour. But this is going to be short, and it's about the black church. Out of necessity, after slavery, the black church created a community and worship practices that was culturally distinct from other churches, including from African spiritual tradition. And what I'm saying is, because of the fact there was still a religion or feeling or culture from Africa, they intertwine Christianity and what they call ancestor worshiping. I don't think there's anything wrong with worshiping ancestors. Even in the Catholic Church, we worship St. Michael's, St. this, St. that. And the same thing, they honor their parents, their grandparents, and the people who came before them. Not animism, which you worshiping animals, but worshiping their ancestors. And so, sometime even during late in the evening, they were still away into the woods, and they would continue their African conditions along with the Christian traditions. In that tradition, I was telling you before, 2 years ago, about the call and response, which is an African term and condition where the pastor will ask the question or doing a sermon, and there's response from the audience. Everybody got an understanding. Everybody got a chance to give their expression, their feeling, their emotion. Because on a plantation during slavery, you are not allowed to have individual emotions. And so in the church, it was allowed. All the stress and strain of being in human bondage from generation to generation and knowing that you can be sold anytime, day or night, separate you from your children, your husband, your wife, or whether someone can come into the slave shack, tell you to get out and have his way with your chosen lady, woman, daughter, mother. The hell of us all. By being able to go to church and through the Negro spirituals, emotions was released. And to the day, we still have those emotions. Whereas there is that call and response, you will see people rise from the word and the spirit and show their emotion there in their church. There's no shame in their game. They feel the motion, they feel the Spirit of God in them. The black church became the center of the community, serving as school sites, taking up social welfare functions, and has provided the indigent and established orphanage and prison ministry. The black church, which is called the Negro church also, was a very important factor during the civil rights movement. Most of the civil rights movement came out of the church. And again, in this country, there's a law against congregation. You have the right to assemble, but you got to go downtown to get a parade permit and let the same people know what you're getting ready to do. But the congregation, the separation of church and state, this is a congregation. They cannot, the law, the establishment, the forces cannot tell you that you cannot meet in church. So the civil rights movement started in the church many times, and with the leaders of the church, the pastors, took on the task to lead their people to freedom. The black church sometimes termed black Christianity or American Christianity
It is the faith and body of Christian congregational and denominations in the U.S. that ministers predominantly to the African Americans, as well as their collective tradition, and members of the black church can also refer to the individual congregation. Before, you had very few. You had the Protestants, Catholics. What else? Pardon? Okay. That would be a denomination of a particular part of Christianity. Well, in the black church, they established the AME, which is the African Methodist Episcopal Church, the CME Church, which is the Colored Methodist Episcopalian Episcopal Church, and the COGIC, Church of God in Christ, the Protestant denominations. Here in Terre Haute, we have one of the oldest churches in Indiana. It's on the corner of 3rd Street here, and I believe it's Crawford, 3rd and Crawford, is Allen Chapel, A&E. And it was founded and moved there, I believe, in 1839. Little has been said, and I just learned this from a first day of Black History. Dr. Crystal Reynolds gave a presentation at ISU on Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass has been in Terre Haute no less than 9 times. And a few times he was here to help Allen Chapel Church to form and as for fundraisers. Also, Frederick Douglass had a number of engagement in Clinton, Indiana. And of course, by railroad, they stopped in here in Terre Haute. And he's also has stayed at the Terre Haute House a time or two. And anyway, Allen Chapel is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, black churches in the Wabash Valley. Most of the first black congregations and churches formed before 1800 were founded by free blacks. After slavery in the United States was abolished, segregationist attitude to black and whites worshiping together was not as prevalent as it is in the North. Predominant. Still need glasses, right? In the North as compared to the South. After the Civil War, many white Presbyterian ministers moved to the South to establish churches where blacks and whites can worship together. Now, a lot of these ministers that came, they established small churches to teach blacks to read. And it wasn't for the church, we would still be ignorant, just meaning that unknowing. But there was a number of ministers who did come from the North and came to the South during the so-called Reconstruction. I will get to a point for one of the gentlemen who started a trend. The belief in interracial worship was a sign of the true church. In New Orleans, blacks and whites, Catholics, had worshiped together for 150 years before the Civil War, without full equality and primarily under the French and Spanish rule. The KKK and other white opposed to such efforts dwarfed those attempts and to even prevent blacks from worshiping in the same building as white. You know, in this country, separate but equal, there are times that they will allow blacks to come in after whites that already have been in that same building, whether it's in the theater or sitting in the balcony or totally segregated to a point where you cannot be in the same structure. This is what was happening in the South. A white minister from the North founded Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina in 1865. His name was Henry Martin Topper. It was December 1st of that year that established the first historical black college and university we refer to as the HBCU. It was established as a religious institution to teach reading and writing, and also to become pastors and to go out and save souls. Also, there was a medical school. Not only that, one of the historical social activity that came out of Shaw University was SNCC, that is SNCC, which stood for Student Nonviolence Coordinating Committee in 1960. And what they did was students did peaceful protests like in Woolworth, places like that, sitting at the counter. And so, but the first college in the North was Shawnee College and University in 1837, February 25th, in Philadelphia. That led to a number of 107 historical black colleges and universities, where more than 228 students are being taught today. The first black founding college was Wilberforce, which is in Ohio, was owned by and operated by blacks in 1856 by the Cincinnati Conference of Methodist Episcopal Churches and the AMC Church to provide classical education and teaching training for blacks. So the church had a lot to do with raising people up out of poverty, up out of slavery, up out of ignorance. That's what the church does for you. And because of the fact that during this period of time that during slavery, they didn't want people to read, and it was outlawed to read, because if you read the Bible, it would tell you that all of us are equal up under the eyes of God, and therefore no one should be in bondage. But there's misinterpretation of the truth in the Bible based upon who's telling the truth. And for people who have a sermon and talking about Ham, how Ham and God condemned anybody who were not the slave master. And for you to be passive, quiet, and a beast of burden while certain people is making their wealth over the backs of others. So, as I said that I'm not going to ask for 10 more minutes, but I will but I will say this. The truth is God, and God is love. And whenever someone disallowed the truth, which is going through our community today, I won't speak of those 3 little letters, CRT, where people is misunderstood and misinterpret what it stands for, and what it stands for is the truth. You good people have asked us time and time again to come into your church to give some insight of what we have gone through as far as history is concerned. And we have great history right here in Terre Haute. February the 2nd, the second day of so-called Black history, and every day is Black history, it's American history. But sometimes people want to cut it out because they don't want to bear the truth about what we have done in the past and what we're doing today. I was fortunate to be asked to go to Rise Community Center, which is a very poor area in Terre Haute, and both black and white kids there. Well, Jim Edwards asked me to come there, and I did. He's like my little brother. I've been knowing him for a long time since I came here in Terre Haute in 1977. I was a student at Indiana State, and he was in safety and security.
And years later, he was asked by Catholic Charity to be the director because they knew the compassion this man had. And he's not even Catholic. But they knew, regardless of denomination or where he went to church, that he would be good for the kids in that community. And he's been working with them for a number of years. I was there to talk to the kids about Black history. And some kids don't want to know. No big deal. So what I decided to do is talk to them about the definition of history. If you write about a second ago, a day ago, a week ago, a year ago, a month ago, whatever, you're writing history. And they didn't know the simple thing is just put it down on paper as history. It's your story, it's his story, and most of the time, they don't even allow women or her story to be a part of the scenario. For some odd reason, the system want to keep women from being a part of it other than what they decide what women should be. So I told these kids about different families, such as Annie Crothers, like in Scatman Crothers, being a singer, a television star, a musician, moved from Terre Haute. I even asked them about any Shepherds or Perrys, which we have a street going through Indiana State right now that was renamed for Cynthia Shepherd Perry. An ambassador, our own ambassador who was appointed by 3 Republican presidents. I asked them about, since it was Super Bowl week, I asked them about who was playing in the Super Bowl, and one of them was Cincinnati. I said, did you know we had a young man from Terre Haute who played on Cincinnati football team? No. I said, you know any McGee's? They said, yeah. I said, Tony McGee played with Cincinnati and Dallas Cowboys also. And right now, Tony McGee is in partnership as an owner of Dunkin' Donuts on South 3rd Street. The Hudson sisters, have you ever heard of the Emotions? And they have a little clips on commercials. They're still making money that way. They are from Terre Haute. Willa Brown, they're getting ready to do a hangar and a wall out here at the airport. These 2 ladies, Willa Brown was the first Black female licensed pilot in the United States. Now, there was another lady who was the first Black to get a pilot, but they would not allow her to get it in the United States. She went over to Europe to get it. It's international. But Willa Brown was from Terre Haute, along with a number of other people that was here. So I named a number of families, and they knew the families. And I said that to them. I said, do not let anything limit your ability to be great, even if you have to leave home to do so. Thank you.
I ain't gonna study war no more.
The closing words, number 689, are by Paul Robeson. He was a brilliant actor and singer. He died in 1976. Sorrow will one day turn to joy. All that breaks the heart and oppresses the soul will one day give place to peace and understanding, and everyone will be free.
May the blessings of love rest upon you. May peace abide with you. May God's presence illuminate your heart now and forevermore.
Go in peace. Know that you are loved and that your life is sacred.